Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football's Futures. I'm Tyler, and this is Tim.
What's up?
And today we're going to break down our top rankings for the NFC. We're going to go over QBs, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and then our top 5 sleepers for PPR. This is going to be all PPR rankings. And then at the end of it, we'll give some college football picks since NFL's really not going on. It's kind of a down week for everybody. Got to make cuts tomorrow. So we'll just give our first week picks. And then we will try to record later this week to give a little preview of what to expect next week. But let's go ahead and start with some of the news that's happened recently in the NFL. With Jameis Winston first being named starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints.
Yep, I think that's the right move. He definitely had a great week his last week, and with Taysom, I just don't think he's that great of a quarterback. Can lead. He definitely knows the system. Sean Payton knows what he's getting out of him, but I think Jameis Winston is the quarterback they need to at least to start week one and give them a chance to compete with the Bucs in that division.
That's what I agree too. I just feel like Sean Payton knows he's their best chance of winning games this year. Taysom Hill, I just don't think is a very good quarterback, but Jameis Winston, I think, will be able to game manage and maybe get them into a wild card game and get into the playoffs. Where I just don't think Taysom Hill might be able to do that with their division, but I don't know. He's not going to be able to obtain solid quarterback one status throughout the whole year, especially when you have to play the Bucs twice.
Yep, I really think Jameis complements Kamara as well. He's definitely be getting the ball. Have Callaway out there since you definitely don't have Michael Thomas right now. Definitely helps those guys out with Tre'Quan Smith when he's out there, Callaway, and then with like I said, Kamara, I think it makes that team a lot better.
Yeah, definitely makes Kamara more valuable now with Jameis back there because it gives him those running back goal line touches that Taysom would have taken away, but I mean you can still insert Taysom pretty much anywhere you want. So I think it was a smart move by Sean Payton to name him starting quarterback. But
I think Taysom will still be on the field. They'll still run those packages.
I'm sure they will.
That you saw last year.
Sean Payton loves running that. And I don't see why you'd go away from it if it was working so well. So he was out, and then the big injury bug kind of hit this week for some players. Starting with a guy who I had rated pretty high in J.K. Dobbins, finishing pretty high this year. He's out for the season with a torn ACL.
Yeah, it was definitely hard to see. I didn't get to watch the game, but I definitely got the update right away on my phone, got on Twitter, and that's what everyone was talking about. They didn't know exactly what happened, but from how people were reacting just from the hit and how he grabbed his knee, they thought the worst right away, and ended up they're able to confirm that it was a torn ACL and he's out for the season. So that'll open up some more for Gus Edwards to take some more reps there, and that's really it. They have Hill too, and I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I feel like they're going to have to go after somebody and get somebody else. So they came out today. I saw a statement said they're not going for Todd Gurley right now.
I saw that too, which I mean. Todd Gurley isn't really much anymore. He's kind of washed with his knees.
I don't see a guy out there that's available that can give you more of a balanced attack or a better attack than Gus Edwards right now.
Yeah. I mean, you could, and for how cheap Gus Edwards is too, is what changes everything. Todd Gurley's going to want some money. If you go after a guy like Le'Veon Bell, he's going to want money. So I think they're going to ride him and then just kind of use, but I feel like they're for sure going to go get somebody. I just don't know who that somebody's going to be yet. So, I mean, he's definitely someone now to look forward to, and I feel like you can take him in the 5th, 6th round and trust that, especially with how much the Ravens like to run the ball. So,
definitely. I will be drafting Gus Edwards. I've been seeing 3rd, 4th round, and some. I would think I'm probably going to go around the 4th, 5th round. Don't want to overreact, especially. I would let the players that like to just follow the most recent news in your draft to definitely take the Gus Edwards and make that reach. But if you can find that 4th, 5th round spot, I would for sure take him.
Yep. And then another injury. This one's kind of going under the radar here. It's T.Y. Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like an unspecified back neck injury, and they're saying that he's going to miss some time. They haven't said how long or what, but from what some of the things I've read, it might be longer than we expect. So that just puts more control into Michael Pittman as they're being their number one receiver this year, especially if Carson Wentz is coming back earlier rather than later.
Yeah, Ty Hilton just seems like he has an injury bug each year, and it just keeps happening. So I would think that this injury would be the later rather than the shorter, just to make sure he's completely healthy. I did also see that we need to mention Carson Wentz, Pascal, and I forgot the offensive lineman actually went on the COVID list today as well. So that's another week that Carson Wentz is going to be out. I just kind of wanted to add that more of like a betting aspect. So I actually took the Seahawks are -2.5 against the Colts in Indianapolis right now. So I actually went and jumped on that today. I would definitely be taking that. I think the Seahawks, how the offense, how they always feel like the Seahawks always start really hot at the beginning of the season.
Well, they also have a new OC this year as well, and from what I've looked up and what I've read so far, they're kind of looking to kind of throw the ball, spread it out a lot more this year than they were in the past. And
then with the Colts not being able to practice with the full team for another week, and then you have probably like less than a week to get ready for that game. So that's something to look, because Carson Wentz hasn't been there either. And then if he doesn't start, you're starting with Easton, and I'm definitely not liking that at all.
No,
so
I'd stay away from
I would definitely go with the Seahawks -2.5. I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah, so those are the injury news. Are there any other injury updates did you see? I guess the one we just got right now is that Trey Lance has...
He chipped
his finger
in the last game, so he's going to be out a week, and you only have 2 more weeks left till the season starts. That might push Garoppolo to start week 1.
And I think whoever starts, the other one's going to play no matter what. We kind of saw it on yesterday in that preseason game where it was Garoppolo would play 3 plays and then Trey Lance would run out there and play something. So I feel like that's what they're going to do, is try to alternate drives or do something different with each of them, because they are two different types of quarterbacks. So I don't know, I'm kind of curious to see what that's going to happen there. And then kind of the same thing with New England one. They just finished their last game. Cam didn't look great.
Yep. I'm really thinking Mac Jones is going to get that start.
And that's why I feel like Belichick is going to hold it close until he absolutely has to release the fact that. And it'll be interesting to see who they cut to might give us some insight on what they're going to do. I don't know. I think Mac Jones will take over because I feel like he can do everything Cam can do. The only thing Cam does a little better is just running the football. So I don't know. It's a weird situation over there, and I don't know. I agree with you. I think Mac Jones will end up taking over.
It's just the only thing you could hope for is Mac Jones just hopefully doesn't lay an egg, because then now you dug yourself a hole where you have a rookie quarterback that doesn't have any confidence and he's not doing good, and then you have Cam Newton who's probably just mad sitting on the sidelines not doing anything. So it's definitely you don't want that to happen, but I think Belichick knows his quarterbacks, and Mac Jones, if he's ready, if Belichick thinks he's ready, he'll be out there, and he won't have that happen.
I mean, best case scenario for them is they have a Tom Brady situation all over again with Drew Bledsoe, where Cam Newton is a starter, gets hurt or gets dinged up somehow, and then Mac Jones comes in over
saves the day,
inserts himself as that top guy no matter what. So I don't know, I'm interested to see what they're both going to do and how that's going to play out. So that's something we're going to keep our eyes on for sure. And then as well as with this Watson news that we've been seeing lately with his trading.
Now I think it's smoke. I don't know confirmed sources, but I listened to part of my take, and they're talking about how the Dolphins want to add in a clause if Watson is found guilty, they want some of the picks back or something like that. I'm not 100% sure about all that, but it sounds like, especially with the allegations with all of the allegations, they're going to be wanting something back if for some reason Watson can't play for the season.
And that's what the whole thing that they're trying to do, I get why, because like Watson is proven, Tua's not, but you went and spent a first round pick on Tua. Why would you not give him another chance, a full year to go and do whatever. So
that's why I think it's smoke. They're going to stick with Tua. They're going to see with the offense. And then give it a year, and if Tua's not what it looks like he needs to be, that's when you start looking for that quarterback. But I think you need to give
him some type of development. Now that he has Waddle too, it changes everything. So I don't know. It's crazy to me that they're already looking to move on. He didn't play great, but so I don't know. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with that, and then see what kind of happens with these last QB battles that are kind of going out towards the last week here, because our first game's next Thursday. So kind of curious to see how that's going to break out and what we're going to find out. And I think whoever ends up either one of those jobs, I think it changes more for the Patriots than it does with the 49ers on who's like best available. But another thing I saw was Ayuk was hurt a little bit again. His hamstring has been bothering him.
Yeah, I saw that too. It's something to look at. I'm not. Did they say is it questionable for week 1 or is it?
No, I think it's just kind of out right now. But it's hamstrings.
Yeah,
those
preseason last
those
week,
don't really go away anytime soon.
Don't want to push that.
So that's something to keep an eye out for too. So that's all the news that we've gotten so far. I'm sure we'll get some more with people who get cut, some pickups, or do you have anything else?
I got one more thing. Irv Smith Jr. for the Vikings.
His meniscus.
Has a torn. He got surgery on his meniscus this week, I think. And
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday, so
Sunday.
It looks like it could be several weeks to several months. So you don't really know what the Vikings are going to do. I did see the Vikings last year were the third in the NFL in 2 tight end stacks of 455 plays. So having your starting tight end out is going to hurt the team. And I know Coach Zimmer's came out and said they're going to be looking at running more 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, Tyler Conklin's going to be their new number 1 tight end. But I don't know what all that does. Your lights on. Yeah. All that does is give more value now to Adam Thielen, in my opinion.
Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson.
Oh yeah, Justin Jefferson was still top guy, but now it's okay to go get a guy like Adam Thielen because he won't have Irv Smith there to really take away end zone looks. And I think Adam Thielen is more of the goal line receiver. He's a great fade runner, fade route runner. And I think Kirk Cousins just likes getting him the ball down there. And I think a lot of attention will be on Justin Jefferson down there and just the whole year. So I think Adam Thielen's stock is going to slowly rise up. Now, I wouldn't take him any higher than like the 4th. But if you can get him or the 5th even too, if you can get him right there, that's a pretty solid pickup, especially for a guy who caught a lot of touchdowns. And we'll definitely get that chance again with Irv Smith being out because they were looking at utilizing him a lot this year. So
yeah, I was just wondering. I don't really know, but if you don't have as many 2 tight end stacks, could that hurt Dalvin Cook maybe in the long run? Or do you think that I guess at the same time it's Dalvin Cook and he'll make his own
that's why
space.
I think I don't know, do they maybe go fullback then instead with it?
Yep.
It just really depends. Or they might go find somebody and just run it. I think really Dalvin Cook's one. He's like he can catch ball and he can run the ball.
Yeah, it's not really too worried.
I don't think it'll really. The reason they're so like Justin Jefferson is so successful is because of Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
You have to worry about that run factor and worry about him every time. So yeah, so he's out as well, torn meniscus, and then that is it for the news this week. So let's move on into our NFC rankings. Again, this is for PPR leagues, our top 5 rankings on who we think will score the best in this division. We did AFC last week, so if you didn't listen, go ahead and check that one out. We're going to do NFC this week. We both haven't seen the list we made for each other, but I'm sure they'll probably be pretty similar, kind of like they were last week, although there are a lot more options here, and how you can rank them is a lot different than kind of the AFC. So I'm sure, starting with quarterbacks, we'll probably have the same first. But who do you have as
I
number?
I have Kyler Murray from the Cardinals.
Okay. I do not. So
You do not? Okay.
no.
With Kyler Murray, with PPR, and just with QB, he was the QB1 last year all the way up to week 16, 17 until he didn't play and got hurt. So the dynamic of him being able to pass, him able to run the ball, kind of like Lamar Jackson, but he's a better passer. I think that's what makes him stand out between him and all the other quarterbacks in the NFC.
Yeah, I feel that. I just feel like this year with Kyler Murray, he had such a good year last year. I just feel like his numbers might drop down. He had 11 rushing touchdowns last year, which is a lot.
It's a lot for
And he's also talked about how he doesn't want to run the ball as much. He was kind of mad that there's too many design runs for him, not just natural scrambles where he goes out and does his thing. And I honestly think you have DeAndre Hopkins. Now, A.J. Green, they did add this offseason. He is another big body to throw the ball to in the end zone. So I think that might take away some of those rushing touchdowns, as well as the addition to with James Conner, which, I mean, I don't think James Conner is anything special, but he's a guy they might run out there on the 5-yard line and then try to get give him a rushing touchdown. So I don't know, I like Kyler Murray, but like I said, his numbers were really good last year. They're going to throw the ball a lot. They'll continue to do that, and when you have DeAndre Hopkins, it makes it easy to throw the ball. The only thing that just worries me with this PPR is just that rushing factor. It might not be the same this year as it was last year. So I actually have Aaron Rodgers as my number 1 rated quarterback this year, just because, like I said, it's just last year. They're a throw-first offense, in my opinion, no matter what. They're the only team I ever know that consistently runs 1-yard outs to Devonte Adams instead of trying to run the ball on first down. And then you got Robert Tonyan, who I think will be another good target for him in the end zone, and he's got Randall Cobb back too. So I like that, but the only thing that worries me is A.J. Dillon coming in and taking some touchdown passes away in attempts that he had last year that he probably won't get this year. But I think Aaron Rodgers on a FU tour is what's going to take it to the top. They're going to throw the ball a lot, and I just think he's the best quarterback in the NFC, and you can't not have him up there as the best receiver or best passing option, especially when he has arguably the best receiver in the NFL on his team. So
I agree 100%. Like, I got Rodgers at number 2. It was really back and forth because Murray, I think what separates Murray is just that rushing option. I know with passing, Rodgers can throw for 40 touchdowns easily with Devonte Adams. But with Murray, if he can get around 30 and then have about 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns, that point difference of that 6-4, I think that's what can make the can help out. Like you said, with A.J. Dillon taking some of those touchdowns away, and plus that the Cardinals could be trying to catch up in a lot of games. They're in a very tough division, trying to have to pass the ball a lot. Could get a lot, like we saw from Dak before he got hurt last year. The Cowboys were so bad that he was just throwing the ball constantly after that. So I think that could be.
That's another thing that worried me with Kyler is that he does play in division with such good defenses that he might not be able to perform as high as like a guy with Rodgers who plays the Lions twice a year or matches up with the Vikings team who their defense has gotten better but still isn't great. So, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is up there. So you had him at 2. And then my number 2 would be Dak Prescott. And I put him up this high solely because the fact that, like you said, the defense was so atrocious last year. He was forced to throw the ball 30-plus times a game, and I feel like there's no way that won't happen again. And in 2019, he was top 2 QB in PPR, and then and last year he was definitely on the pace to do that again. So I don't see why that would change this year. Their defense, it hasn't gotten significantly better. It's gotten somewhat better, but I still think Dak Prescott's going to finish this at number 2 guy in the NFC, and he might even finish top 5 again. I think he will finish top 5 again in the NFL with passing this year. So, and I'm not really worried about the arm thing. I think it was more overplayed than it should have been. I think it was just kind of more of a precautionary thing because they saw how bad they were without their number 1 guy. So. I don't know. I think he'll be healthy for most of say nothing happens. I think his arm's fine, and he'll be good to go.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Prescott. The only thing that scares me why he actually fell on my list a little bit is just coming off of just a big injury like that. Yeah. You don't know 100% what's going to happen. You also have Zeke out there. I think you're definitely going to rely on Zeke a lot. Definitely with that offense with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, both that I'm high on, definitely has wide receivers to throw to.
Yep.
It's just the question is that injury, is he going to be running as much, or is he just going to try to stay in the pocket and throw pretty much all game and try to catch up? Because they're also not in a very good division, but like you said, their defense is not very good. So
and they do play some
it
pretty...
honestly could end up, like, if he didn't get hurt last year, I had Prescott. He was going to be the number one quarterback in fantasy. So it's a great pick to have one or two. Just want to see what he does after the injury. It scares me just a little bit.
That's right. I think he'll be fine. I feel like he's played through injuries. He's one that focuses a lot on mental health and everything, and mental fortitude, being stronger than everything. So I think he will definitely be able to overcome that. And now I don't think they'll do as many design runs with him just because they don't want to get hurt. But I think you can still see him. He'll score touchdowns. He's a big dude, so he's going to run and get some with his feet as well. So. But yeah, like you said, all those weapons just, I think, take them above, and then how bad their defense was, too. So that is my number 2.
So with my number 3, I'm going Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can be a very big headache sometimes in fantasy. Someone that looks like he'd be the number 1 quarterback.
It's like last year.
And then can be someone that just looks like an average quarterback. And he has it. He's on an offense that I don't think maybe fits perfectly with his system. They've never had a running game to back him up. He's always had to take a few steps, chuck it, and hopefully someone catches it. I know he has 2 great wide receivers in Lockett and DK Metcalf this year, and with a new offensive coordinator, it might help him this year. But at number 3, I just can't doubt what Russell Wilson. He's done it more. He's succeeded more than he's failed. So I think that Russell Wilson needs to be at number 3, and that's why I have him higher than Dak Prescott. I think Prescott's more of a question. I know what I'm getting with Russell Wilson. You just have to hope that it's not the super highs and the super lows like last year was.
That's what, I have him at number 3 as well, just because, like you said, he was arguably an MVP candidate, had an early MVP race, like number 1. And then, like you said, he just kind of disappeared. He didn't really. I don't know.
The whole offense disappeared. Lockett.
They just kind of It was a weird year. They went from throwing the ball like 40 times a game to all of a sudden we're gonna run it. We're gonna be a running team. And Chris Carson got hurt, so that didn't help. But I just think with Metcalf, Lockett, and then a healthy Chris Carson, a new OC, I think they'll come in. They'll start throwing the ball. The only other thing that he's never had is like a solid O-line. So, curious to see how that's going to play out this year. But like you said, he's too good to not put up there in the top 3 in the NFC. But like I also worry about the fact that, like you said, their offense, he can disappear at any time, and he kind of has. It has happened a lot to where Lockett can go for 50
points
a week in fantasy, and then
never get 15 again.
The next week have 0 catches, which is insane to me, but that's something he did. So, like, Wilson definitely has his favorites and receivers, and that offense is just so confusing at times. Even they play in Seattle where weather's not always the best, too, so, and in a very tough division. So, I do like Russell Wilson there at 3, and I could see him going back to his old form and being an MVP candidate or watch for MVP. So, who do we have at number 4 here?
This is where I have Prescott at.
Prescott.
Yeah,
okay.
I put Prescott at 4.
And that's right. Yeah, I mean, you can interchange pretty much any of these guys. I feel like those.
There is a chance. I feel like last year with the top 4, even a couple of years, one of them's always in the MVP race at the beginning of the season, middle, and one of the 4 is always there, because the quarterback, that's your MVP now. Like, it's so hard to win MVP with different positions.
Well, that's what I mean. Derrick Henry had 2,000 yards rushing. That's the 8th time that's been done.
And it wasn't
even thought about, which is insane to me. But like.
It just always seems like they're all changing. Not one is as dominant where it's kind of separates them. They're all kind of go a little bit back and forth.
And that's what. And those, I feel like Rodgers, Russell, Dak have been doing it for a little bit. They're interchangeable. And where you put Kyler at number 1, I have Kyler at number 4. And that's just because of the fact that the rushing touchdowns are going to be down for me. And I just think he's. I don't know. It's just tough for me to put him up higher because he did have a good year last year. He will definitely get better with Cliff Kingsbury is the only concern.
He questions me, so.
But they are a throw first offense with him, so it's going to be interesting to see. I don't hate Kyler Murray. I could see him being top. He was number one for a long time and then kind of fell off.
Yeah, last season that's when Josh Allen took over. But
but that's where it's like Kyler, it's just the rushing touchdown aspect changes everything. And I just think 11 is so hard to maintain as a quarterback. So
especially when you came out and said you don't want to run.
Yeah.
So I can for sure see that. I just think Kyler Murray. I feel like you come out and say you don't run the ball, but just how he is, and seen him before, it's almost like a second instinct for him. I think he doesn't want to run, but when he has no one open, he needs to keep a play alive. He is going to run.
He wasn't so worried about that. It was the design runs that Kingsbury was doing with him. So he's not a huge fan of that. He's just he just wants to be, like you said, the scramble out, run for a couple yards and go. So he'll definitely be able to maintain and be good again, especially with Hopkins. So I like that. At number 5, I have Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
And that's because quarterback was Sean McVay. We saw how Jared Goff was a solid quarterback 2 years ago. Last year was terrible, but I think you get a guy in a system with Sean McVay. He's like Kyle Shanahan. They just make him better. That's why I have him so high. And he'll have kind of his first time ever having solid receivers to throw to outside of Calvin Johnson. He's got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and then I think Tyler Higby will be a solid option for him this year. And them not having a huge running game again.
He's kind of used to that, though.
Well, that's what I mean. He might not have a huge running game, so that just gives them more opportunities to throw the football, and they'll have to throw the ball to beat teams in their division. So I put him at number 5 because I think he'll have a very solid year this year throwing the football.
So I actually thought about Matt Stafford number 5. I think it's a good pick, and I could for sure see him in the top 5 quarterbacks in this conference. But actually, I went with Tom Brady with the Bucs. I think that offense between Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, being able to throw to them, and Tom Brady just being able to make any wide receiver, a good wide receiver by getting him the ball where they need to. They don't have a dominant running system. It's going between Fournette and Ronald Jones. And he also has Gio Bernard back there now, which is going to be his James White. So he loves that comfortability of being able to do that drop-off. So I think with everything he has, almost kind of like what Matt Stafford has, but I've seen Tom Brady here in the Bucs system. He won a Super Bowl. So I think I don't see him being the number 1 quarterback because with the age and everything, that can definitely limit you. But in the top 5, I think it's definitely a very comfortable pick. And you can use Tom Brady, can use him to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. And you can also use him to use and hold on to some younger guys like the Trey Lance, the Fields and everything, and be comfortable of trying to play matchups. But if you can't find a matchup, Tom Brady being there makes it definitely comfortable for you. And I think he's number 5.
Yeah, and giving him a full off season with these guys will definitely change because we saw they started out slow at the beginning of the year, and
they didn't really lose a whole lot of people. So
no, they didn't lose anybody, especially on the skill wise. So he'll definitely be able to pick it back up, and I could see him finishing top 5 as well. So to round out that, our quarterbacks are my top 5 are Aaron Rodgers for the Packers, Dak Prescott, Cowboys, Russell Wilson, Seahawks, Kyler Murray with the Cardinals, and then Matt Stafford with the Rams.
Yep, and then mine was Kyler Murray with the Cardinals, Aaron Rodgers with the Packers, Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, Dak Prescott with the Cowboys, and Tom Brady with the Bucs.
Okay, so that was our top 5 quarterbacks. So let's move on now to our top 5 running backs. Tim, who is your first running back? I feel like this is a pretty obvious choice for everybody.
Yeah, mine first was McCaffrey.
Yeah, that was mine too.
I think it's pretty
much don't really say anything. Yep. I mean, even outside he was hurt last year, but you put those first 3 games together, or the 3 games that he did play together, he's top back again. He's just an explosive player out of the backfield, and the Panthers are going to do whatever they can to get him involved. And his running will just improve, and he's got more weapons now to help with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Terrace Mitchell coming in. So I think you'll see another solid year out of McCaffrey, and I don't see how he loses that top spot this year.
Yeah, he's coming in 100%. I'm pretty sure he was okay to play at the end of last year, but they just sat him. I think that he was just already getting ready for this season. I think this is a good year for him, and I think this might be his best year yet. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Which is hard because, 2 years ago he single-handedly wins players' games in fantasy.
I think in our league, it single-handedly won the guy the championship.
Oh, easily.
Yep.
But we also did that really stupid point system.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
But yeah, so Christian McCaffrey's easily the number one ranked player in the NFC, but he's also going to be the number one ranked player in the NFL at running back. He's top draft pick anywhere. So standard league or PPR. Who do you have at number 2 then?
Number 2 was very close for me, but actually I went to the Kamara at number 2. Between him and Cook, I'm going to guess you're either Kamara Cook or Cook Kamara, probably something like that. But Kamara had about around 200 less carries than Derrick Henry last year. And in PPR league, he finished above him with the number 1 running back just because he had so many targets. Had over 100 targets, 83 catches, something that's just crazy coming out of the backfield. I know with the Saints it's very questionable because he doesn't have Drew Brees anymore. Yeah. And when Taysom Hill was in, we know he's not going to be the starter, but with a different quarterback, sometimes you want to question Kamara, but I think Jameis Winston is now the quarterback. I think he's going to heavily rely on him, and especially with Thomas being out, you got to rely on someone, and he's the guy you want to go to.
And that's what, I feel like Kamara's a good slot at number 2, especially PPR. The only reason why I don't have him at number 2, I put him at number 3, is just the fact that he has Jameis Winston, and he lost Drew Brees as well. And I think a lot of those beginning games before Drew Brees really got hurt is where he got a big stunt of those receptions that you talked about, the 83. I see that number dropping this year. Not a lot, but I think I see it dropping because they're also really big on this new running back that they have back there as well. Mm-hmm. And Sean Payton has talked about him highly. But I just think the numbers of the number of receptions that he had last year is going to go down, and that's where you're going to see a little bit of a hit with him, where I think who I have at number 2, Dalvin Cook, with the beneficiary, he'll be the beneficiary of Irv Smith Jr. tearing his meniscus even more now, because I think that's more end zone goal line touches, not end zone, I keep saying that, red zone goal line touches that Dalvin will get. And you can only throw so many fades to Adam Thielen. So I've just put Dalvin Cook a little bit higher than him solely because of the fact that he is I think Dalvin Cook's the best runner in the NFL, like pure runner.
Pure runner, yeah.
And he's just, to me, he can do it all and he does everything for the Vikings. So I put him at number 2 just because he is at every 3 down back. There's really nobody else. Where Kamara does kind of split the field a little bit more than Dalvin does. So that's why I just threw Dalvin in there a little bit higher, because I feel like you're going to see his targets continue to kind of rise, and then you'll see his touchdown numbers keep staying consistent, and he will get those rushing attempts. And I feel like they just play a little bit a different style in Minnesota that's more bank to a running back being more successful than the Saints.
And you also have Kirk Cousins, who doesn't throw the ball a whole lot as Jameis Winston does, so it's tough. And also, I think just the average and fantasy football player, or maybe someone that maybe doesn't follow it as much, you're like, the Vikings didn't make the playoffs. They must have not done very well. Well, besides that 1-5 start, after they were 1-5, they won, I want to say 7 they won a big run, and that offense was clicking with Justin Jefferson over the top. You have your Adam Thielen kind of go in the middle, and you have Dalvin Cook back there. It was all clicking perfectly, and that's something I think they're taking in this season of how that last season ended.
Yeah, and it kind of turned to that Packer game middle of the year when Dalvin had that 3-4 touchdown performance and just went off, and that's where I think you saw the Vikings offense just switch to, okay, Dalvin's going to be the guy. We're going to utilize whatever we can and let him get what he can, and then we'll base everything else off of that. So I don't see that changing just because the Minnesota offense, I think, is run first, where Sean Payton's isn't always that. And they kept Latavius Murray. They have 3 running backs now. So I feel like it's going to be constant rotation. He always gave Latavius certain touches that should have been
Kamara, yeah.
So
Can agree with that one.
I don't know. Like, I feel like they don't utilize Kamara as much as like the Panthers do with McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like Kamara only had how many rushes? He only had 187 attempts. Usually for your great runners, over 250 attempts, something like that. So definitely something to look forward to. But like I said, the past 3 seasons before, he had 81 receptions. Then last year, he wasn't on the field as much, but he also had 83 receptions.
And that's
so it's
rotation quarterbacks.
If you're not playing PPR, I would go with Dalvin Cook. But the PPR, I think it makes it a very even matchup.
And that's how I think it's either. It's what do you want? Do you want a more consistent runner, or are you going to take the risk and be like, Jameis is still going to get Kamara those touches out of the backfield like he was getting with Drew Brees? But like I said, I think Kamara is probably. I just don't think they utilize him as much as they should, in my opinion. I mean, he runs the ball great. He doesn't even look like he's trying half the time when he's running the football. He slow plays everything, and then he's just like. It's a burst of speed, and I feel like he never really gets hit hard. It's always kind of like he's just drugged down, kind of.
Yeah, no one can ever get a good hit on him.
Yeah, so I just feel like, I don't know, they don't utilize him as much as they should, and that's why I bumped him down to 3. And I guess you have Dalvin Cook at 3 then?
Yep,
who do we have at 4?
So with 4, I went with Ezekiel Elliott. Even though I have him number 4, I think if he was in the AFC, he'd be their number 1. He has 3 great running backs in front of him, but I think Zeke, it's going to be his year. He's going to have a bounce back year. He has Dak back, and starting of last year, I know how bad that defense was, and he also had a couple of really bad fumbles to begin the year. Yeah. But if he can control that, he looks great coming into this preseason. Looks like he lost some weight. He's ready to have a great season, and I think he's at number 4, but I think he could be in that competition with the top 3 of being in that conversation of being a great running back this year.
And that's why he was a top 5 runner, pass catcher, top 5 running back 2 years ago. And with Dak last year, he was well on that pace again. So he can easily do it, and I also put him at number 4 just because, like you said, he has Dak. He can catch, he can run, he can do all that. So I really like Zeke to have a bounce back year, and I think he's kind of on a prove it thing too as well, because he knows last year was not a good year for him with all the fumbles and everything, and he's talked about it. So I do like him coming back and being the 4th best. And I feel like these 4 guys, compared to the AFC, if you stack them up, are the
it's
the
not honest. It's not even close.
It's way heavier than like. Yes, you have Derrick Henry in the AFC. And
you have Eckler
and then
Chubb. But when you're talking for PPR, those
and you're like, for me, I have guys who can easily be better than what they are, not even on here. And I just feel like the NFC this year is so much deeper with running backs and wide receivers, which we'll get to later. So I don't know. I feel like it's very easy to pick any one of these guys within the top 5. And definitely top 10 this year. But so we both have Zeke at 4. Number 5, I have Antonio Gibson. Who do you have?
And I went with Saquon.
Saquon, yep.
So with Saquon, it's questionable. I know the Giants are questioning to start him week 1. I just think the opportunity of him being the Giants team, if he can stay healthy, I think that's what separates him from the rest of the running backs that are on the board. Because I do love Antonio Gibson. I do love a couple other running backs as well. But I think Barkley, who has shown greatness when he is healthy, that's what separates him, because he will be a 3-down back. He will get all those targets, catches from Daniel Jones. It's just a matter of fact of staying healthy, like I said.
And I have Gibson here, and Barkley's my 6th looking in to get into this top 5, and that's solely because we don't know when he's going to come back. But I feel like he's going to be fully capable of going back to what he did 2 years ago, being that top back for them, running the ball, catching the ball, being great. Because, I mean, outside of Barkley, Ingram, he's hurt too. Not really, you can't really rely on him in that system with the Giants. You got Sterling Shepard, who's just a fifth-year average receiver. And then they trade for Kenny Galladay, who's just injury-prone like crazy.
And Wayne Gallman's out of there, too, so he's not even there to back up.
So I feel like it's kind of, once he gets back, it's going to be back to that. We're going to pound with Barkley and see what he can do with the ball. Because, I mean, once you get a ball into the hands of a guy like Barkley, it's pretty much, you just wait to see if something happens. So.
And something will happen eventually. He's too good not to let anything happen. And
that's why I think I just put him on the 6 just because right now I don't know when he's coming back. And they might put him on a little pitch count, kind of run count with him.
And that's why he's number 5. He honestly could make his way, but even up to number 2 when he has a great season.
He was fighting with McCaffrey 2 years ago as a top draft pick, and people were either picking McCaffrey or him. So it pretty much goes hand in hand on who you want. If he gets back to the old self, I think he'll.
That's the biggest question. Will he be back to that self?
And so that's why I put Gibson just in front of him, and solely because of the potential that Gibson has. His ceiling is so high because they want to make him kind of be the McCaffrey back, like what Ron Rivera had in Carolina. Ron Rivera has mentioned that they want to make him CMC, so I could see him right now kind of being a more two-down back when we've seen it, especially in the preseason, J.D. McKissick being that guy that gets all the third-down reps and everything, and which is fine, but I think eventually you're going to see Antonio Gibson take more of that role as a three-down back, and they start throwing him the ball more and getting the ball in his hands more, and I think the help of Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas emergence last year, and then as well as Denzel Wims coming back and then them adding Curtis Samuel, I think is going to help the run game a lot, spread it out, and Fitzpatrick being back there too. I mean, they didn't really have a solid quarterback at all last year, and so I just feel like with decent quarterback play, them spreading the ball out a little more and having Ron Rivera, who kind of made McCaffrey into what McCaffrey is, I think that it's going to be great for them to see what they do with him in this offense and how much they utilize him down the stretch, especially if they switch into a three-down back. Yeah,
if they do switch him to a three-down back, like there's a very good chance he could make this list next year. Like, it's a very tough list to make, and he's your number 5. He's knocking the door for me. The only thing that separates why it separates him from Barkley is J.D. McKissick. J.D. McKissick had 110 targets out of the backfield last year. Had 80 catches, so that's a lot of targets. I know Gibson was hurt, and that was probably a lot to do with that. But McKissick only had 2 touchdowns out of that, so he's not getting the ball to the goal line.
No.
You're definitely going with Antonio Gibson there. So I like that at number 5. I can see that number 5. I'd like him. He's number 6 for me. But I'm very interested to see if they keep J.D. McKissick in that role, or if they'll be going more towards Antonio Gibson.
That's what I agree. It's just it's going to be what it comes down to is, can Gibson stay healthy? Are they going to try to convert him into more of a pass catcher out of the backfield, or they want him to stay more in that downhill grind? So I'm curious to see what they're going to do, and I feel like they want him to be a three-down back, and I think they're going to eventually turn to that. And they'll still utilize J.D. McKissick, but I don't think they'll utilize him as much. And so like with my top 5, I had McCaffrey at 1 with the Panthers, Dalvin Cook with the Vikings at 2, Alvin Kamara at 3 with the Saints. Then I went Zeke at 4 with the Cowboys, and then Antonio Gibson with the football team at 5. And that's just, and like we said, that's leaving off guys like Aaron Jones. And for me, Saquon Barkley, and David Montgomery. All these guys who are perfectly capable of being.
If they're in the AFC, they're the good chance they're in the top 5. So
and it's just, I feel like the NFC depth-wise with running backs is crazy. I mean, Miles Sanders at one point was even a solid running back.
Chris Carson, there's been a lot of talk about him.
Darrell Henderson, who knows what he does. Chase Edmonds. I mean, the list is crazy with the NFC. But so those were my top 5. Who were yours?
Yeah, mine was McCaffrey, and then I went Kamara, then Cook, then Zeke, and then Saquon Barkley with the Giants.
Perfect. So NFC, I think running backs, you have a lot of depth there, and you can play with a lot. So that's definitely something to look forward to. But we think those 5 guys will be the best for this PPR season in the NFC. Definitely we'll probably finish top 10 in the NFL, no doubt. So we'll go ahead and move on to wide receivers then. I think PPR wide receiver is the most important because they can easily win you leagues.
This one was tough.
And then the NFC, I feel like just has like the AFC we did last time. Just I think there's a clear cut 5 kind of guys, 5 to 6 guys that you can interchange. Where this one you can kind of pull from anywhere.
I think I probably could fit 8 or 9 guys.
That's
in the
what
top
like
5.
choosing. There's some people I forgot and had add, and then I feel like my top 2 and our top 2 might be the same, just because I think
there are 2. I feel like there are 2 dominant wide receivers, and then there's 3
after
through
that,
8 or 3 through 9.
It's just interchangeable. Like they can easily take over and be like top 3 in the NFC, and then easily finish top 10. So number 1 for me at wide receiver is Devonte Adams.
Same here.
And that's what I figured. And I'm sure you have DeAndre Hopkins at number 2.
Yes, same here.
Okay, so yeah, like we said, those 2 guys
they get all their targets. They get their catches.
Top 3 overall in the NFL. I think easily.
Doesn't matter the defense. Doesn't matter. They'll get their catches.
Yep.
Don't need to worry about matchups.
No.
Those 2 are the best.
Like Devonte with Rodgers, we saw last year. Insane numbers, especially after missing 4 games or so. It's just absurd what they can do together. And he's such a good route runner. I was watching the top 100. And they were going over his routes and stuff, and it's just crazy how fast he can stick his foot, turn in, and go out. It's just so like his route running ability is insane. Having Rodgers back there changes everything, and then he'll get his touchdowns like he did last year. Like we said, he's the only guy in the only team to throw 1 yard outs to a receiver more than anybody. So. With him at 1, then Hopkins, like we said, he's going to go get his points. And really, he is Kyler Murray's favorite receiver. So
yeah, he gets doesn't matter the coach of the offense. Those are the top 2 guys I want.
Yeah.
Devonte Adams is getting the ball at the goal line. You throw the ball to Hopkins. Like it's just how it is for those 2.
Like Kyler Murray's not a top 5 guy if DeAndre Hopkins isn't on his team. So. That's what it just makes you curious there on what that's going to be.
Yeah,
so.
And then I was going to show red zone target share. I shared it with you the other day. Hopkins had 30% on the Cardinals, and then for the Packers, Adams had 40%.
Yeah,
so they're getting
high volume down there, especially in the goal line.
Yep.
So those 2 are the best in the division, and then like you said, our next tiers kind of drop down to where they're all kind of interchangeable. It's more on who do you prefer? And for me, I don't really prefer this guy, but you just can't argue that he's going to put up numbers this year because of who his quarterback is and the offense they run, and that's DK Metcalf. I think he'll finish top 3 solely because the fact that Russ and them are going to throw the ball, and I feel like DK has become Russ's like go-to target. Lockett's really good, but I just like when Russ is scrambling, rolling around, doing whatever he does, he's always looking to find DK out there. So I like DK going there, and he does it all kind of. He loves the deep balls they run. He can do that, but he also can take a slant 80 yards down the field too and just run by everybody. So his versatility on what he does, he's not just a deep ball guy, not just a short route runner. So I like DK at number 3.
Yep, so I went with Calvin Ridley at number 3. With Calvin Ridley, the Falcons I don't think are going to be that good. But 2, besides Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley is the guy that's going to he's going to get a ton of targets. He's going to get a lot of catches. And I think he's shown, even with Julio Jones there, that he was able to show that he can be a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Not a good team. Matt Ryan's probably going downhill. But I think what stands out between Ridley and then all the rest is I think Ridley doesn't have any competition, and so he gets all those targets, all those receptions. That cool. Like, I'm not saying Ridley's going to have the 150-yard game like Metcalf definitely could, but Calvin Ridley will have the 10 to 12 catches a game, and I think those will add up.
And that's what I mean. The only thing that worries me with Ridley is the fact that he doesn't have Julio there anymore, and so all the attention's going to be on Calvin, and he has to. And we're going to find out, is he up to it or not? And it's a question mark with Pitts on who he's going to be. Like, we're both very high on him. We think he'll he'll perform great because he's athletic and Atlanta loves from the tight end. So the only thing that worries me, like I said, the most with him is the fact that there is no Julio. I mean, Russell Gage can only do so much for him, and we're gonna find out. But he's fully capable of being the top 3 guy in the NFC.
Just because of the target share.
Yeah,
I think that's
and
the
he
main
will get
thing
he'll get
push,
so many targets, especially with in the running game's Mike Davis. Like, is he really gonna be any different from or any worse or better than Todd Gurley last year? So it's question marks all around their team right now. But I think the only safe point for them is the fact that Calvin Ridley's out there. So, who do you have at number 4 then?
I went with person that I think will also have a lot of targets, definitely on a little bit better offense, but I'm going with Terry McLaurin.
And that's who I have at 4 as well.
I think, like we talked about Antonio Gibson, J.D. Mckissick, a lot of them trying to get them to the offense. I think they'll try to go through them first, but having Ryan Fitzpatrick back there, Terry McLaurin's made it look good without a quarterback back there. And you actually have someone that can throw the ball, knows how to get someone open, knows how to win games. And I think what he needs to do to win a game, you need to throw it to Terry McLaurin. And I think he's going to be up the high with the target share as well, and that's why I have him on number 4.
And that's who I have Terry McLaurin at number 4 as well, because Fitzpatrick is up there, as well as the fact that he had just under 140 targets last year with, like you said, the Smith and Dwayne Haskins Jr. rotating, and then Heineke. Like, he didn't have a solid guy there for a while, and Fitzpatrick is more of an aggressive quarterback, where Alex Smith is not. So I think you'll see that utilize McLaurin's strengths more as a route runner, and you'll see maybe more deep balls, more finesse throws to him, and everything. And then he only had 4 touchdowns last year. And I think that number's going to go up, and that changes who he's going to be as a receiver. And I think his target share will go up too. Because, I mean, they're finally got somebody else, and like Denzel Mims, he'll be pretty solid for them his second year.
Yep.
And then they went and got Curtis Samuel. So I think that changes a lot with Antonio Gibson.
Logan Thomas could also be added in there as
people
well.
Are very high on this year. So
it will be going around with the target share, but I think when it comes down to it, like with the Seahawks, they have Lockett or Metcalf. You have someone, if Metcalf's not getting the ball, Lockett could be top 5, top 10 wide receiver as well. With McLaurin, he has good wide receivers to complement him, but no one that's going to outshine him or outtake his
I agree there. So, like I said, he's going to get his shares and everything, and I think he'll be much better off with a more consistent quarterback this year. At number 5 is where I took Calvin Ridley. And the only reason why I put him this low is because of what we talked about already. The fact that he doesn't have Julio, and there's so many question marks, and just how's he going to handle being the number 1 guy there now. So that's why I have Calvin Ridley there.
So DK Metcalf actually did not make my list. I wanted to put him at number 5. If I put him at number 5, would still be happy. But actually, I went with Justin Jefferson. I know there's a lot of talk about how he's not going to be able to do what he did last year, and that people are kind of know how to read him. He has Kirk Cousins at quarterback, who I'm not a big fan of, and that you always have Thielen getting that ball in that at the red zone. But I think Justin Jefferson, coming to his second year, he went through a year, knows what he's doing now. He was a deep ball thrower as a rookie, one of the best in the NFL, just like that. And I just don't see that slowing down. I think he's good enough to where people can play for him, he'll still beat you. And I still like that, and I think just how the deep ball is for him, that I just think there's a little bit of separation between him and DK Metcalf, because DK Metcalf had high highs, but also very low lows. Justin Jefferson, if he wasn't getting all those deep passes, he was still catching the ball. Yeah. And he still had more of that average where you want to be when you're picking.
He's more consistent.
Having him being maybe your best wide receiver on your team, or wide receiver number 2.
Yeah, he'll still get those consistent targets each week, and that's why I have him right outside Calvin Ridley. It was between him and Ridley here at 5 for me. And like I said, I think he'll have a great year getting 2 here, especially now with the news of Irv Smith being out. So I think they continue to involve him in many different ways. So I like Justin Jefferson there at 5. you can really go pretty much anywhere. Like you said, it's after Adams and Hopkins, these next 5 or 6, 7, 8 guys are pretty much interchangeable. Because like Allen Robinson, you could easily
I could have put Allen Robinson in there. CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb, Amari, even all these guys can continue to go. Robert Woods, you could even throw in with Stafford, how much shares he's going to get. So it's just like it's an interchangeable web of players that can consistently.
It's nice to have that you might have someone that could be a top 5 receiver in the conference.
Like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, those guys on loan are solid players, but they have each other to worry about. And then Michael Thomas and everything. So, like I said, it's pretty much any of these guys you can rotate in. But yeah, our number 1 and number 2, we both had Adams, Hopkins. My number 3, I had Metcalf with Seattle, Mclaurin with the football team, and then Ridley with the Falcons.
Yep. And I had Ridley I had Adams, Hopkins, then Ridley, and Mclaurin, and then Justin Jefferson with the Vikings with my 5th pick.
And that's what these are all pretty much interchangeable. But yeah, now this next group, I feel like this side was a little bit harder than the other side to do with tight ends. But I feel like the number 1, number 2 guy are probably the same, maybe. But with number 1, who do you have?
George Kittle.
And that's what I have as well. He's great blocker, great physical runner with the ball, hard to bring down after one, and he runs like fantastic routes. And Kyle Shanahan, I think, is great at getting tight ends involved, and I see no reason why. George Kittle's the top 3 tight end overall in the league. Some say he's the second best behind Kelsey, and then it really depends on who you are, if you like Waller or him more. But Kittle's easily the best option in the NFC to go with, and I think he'll have another strong year, and despite injuries.
Yeah, I think he's with that Darren Waller and Travis Kelce, where you kind of have those 3 tight ends, and then after that, it's a question mark of who you like, who you don't. But George Kittle at number 1, it's pretty 100% obvious.
And then who you have at number 2 here?
I went with the guy who has not played yet, Kyle Pence.
Okay.
Because I think with the tight end, I know we talked about last time, I didn't go with Najee Harris on my top 5 because he hasn't played. I think in the tight end position, it's a little bit different because he's going into offense with Calvin Ridley, like I was talking about his target share. The only person that could make him lose a little bit of targets is Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
He was great in college. I think I said the stat last time, 91% of his catches was either a first down or touchdown. I can definitely see that happening this year. Being thrown a guy definitely in the red zone, getting his targets there, trying to separate from the Calvin Ridley. Go to Kyle Pitts, then you get Kyle Ridley that maybe doesn't have the double coverage anymore because they're focusing on Kyle Pitts.
And that's what Kyle Pitts definitely. I mean, he is a guy that is athletic, fast, and he plays tight end like shit. So matchups with a lot of times linebacker. So I can see why you inserted him here at number 2 because of who he is, what he does, what he can do with the football, what he did at Florida, and then the Falcons are actually they've been the most targeted tight end team over the last within the top 3 over the last 5 years. So they obviously love to get the ball to tight ends. I mean, who was the guy last year for him? What is his name? Long hair.
I know his face.
I know. I can't even.
I can't think of his name.
It'll come to us, but yeah, he was a solid tight end option for a while, and then kind of fell off. But yeah, Kyle Pitts is great for me though.
Hurst.
Hayden Hurst. That's it.
There you go.
So yeah, Kyle Pitts is great there. But for number 2 for me is why I put T.J. Hopkinson, and that's solely because the Lions have nobody to throw the football to. And he had 100 targets last year, and I think he will easily get that target share again this year. And I think he'll go above that. He's a great red zone threat to have on the team, especially with a team with Jared Goff, who maybe won't spread it out like crazy. And I think they're just going to look to get him the ball a lot because he will be their best pass catcher. They have Armand St. Brown, and then that's pretty because they just cut Rashad Perriman.
Yeah, the same. The Lions are losing this year. That's what they're going for. But yeah, I have TJ Hockenson number 3.
Yeah,
I think it's really close. I think you're picking tight ends on 2 bad teams that are going to finish at the bottom of their divisions. And with TJ Hockenson, like you said, Kyle Pitts has to compete with Calvin Ridley. TJ Hockenson doesn't have to compete with anyone.
That's what I mean.
So I think he's been a little injury prone, and Matt Stafford liked him, and last year was a little bit of a disappointment for him a little bit. But I think this year, I think that he does make that next step, and I could see TJ Hockenson being the top 3. I think he is being a little bit overdrafted. I think he's going the 5th or 6th round. I think if you could get him maybe in the 7th or 8th round, that'd be a perfect spot for him. But TJ Hockenson number 2, number 3, I'm perfectly fine with that.
He's like the only big reason why he's up here is because he has no other threats. My next guy, which is Kyle Pitts at 3 for me, is the fact that of what he did in college and everything, his ceiling is so high because we haven't seen him play yet. So you just expect him to kind of be hopefully great and exceed all these expectations that they're talking about. He could be the next Kelsey kind of thing. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out with Pitts, but I definitely put him up here because I could see him easily finishing top 5 in the NFC and then top 10 in the NFL with ease for sure. So at number 4, who did you have here?
I went with Logan Thomas.
That's who I have
with the
here
Redskins.
as well.
I think maybe not. He has a little bit more competition. TJ Hockenson, Kyle Pitts, I think will finish above him because of the target share. But with Logan Thomas, on that team, he doesn't have any competition at the tight end level. He will be on the field. I don't know. I forgot what the stat was, but he was on the field at a tight end like a crazy amount for a tight end to be. Like, he was always on the field. He's on a good offense, better offense than the Falcons and the Lions. He just has better players around him that could be getting the ball over. Yeah, so I think it should be questioned, especially at the end. Logan Thomas was getting the ball a little bit more. So it's like I would like to see what Fitzpatrick does at the beginning of the season with Logan Thomas, if he throws him in or. It's hard to tell when you have one of the best wide receivers on your team. Yeah,
and that's where I put him there because of, like you said, Fitzpatrick. The offense is better. And another reason I was reading an article on him with Rivera, he really likes him kind of like an Olsen type player. And with Olsen in his prime with Rivera in Carolina, he was a top 3 guy. It's just injuries plagued him there. And with Logan Thomas, I was reading an article. So he's a former quarterback, and he's only been playing tight end for 4 years.
So he's just getting better.
Yeah, he's just continuing to get better. He was starting the league. He was in the league for like 4 or 5 years as quarterback, and then somebody picked him up and just said, "I want to make you a tight end." And so that's what they've been doing, and I think it's going to pay off. So he's 30 years old, but he just signed a new contract. And I think that's going to motivate him to be better. And like I said, he's 30 years old, but he's not a tight end 30. He's a young tight end. And I think with Fitzpatrick, you'll see a lot of end zone touches with him, and I think he'll get a lot of red zone work as well. So I like Logan Thomas there at 4 as well. And then my last one, I have Robert Tonyan.
So do I.
And that's solely because of Aaron Rodgers.
It's kind of why I went with Aaron Jones. Aaron Rodgers he just makes everyone better on his team. And him and Robert Tonyan actually have had good games together. Aaron Rodgers trusts him. And I think that's big for him. And I think that's what makes him round out to be in this top 5.
The sole purpose I put him down is because his touchdown rate was so high last year. It's going to drop. It's just... I would think. It could go up. I mean, if it did, that's good for whoever has them. But yeah, I think that touchdown rate's gonna drop. But yeah, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers here, it's hard to pass him up at number 5. So we both have him rounding out our tight ends. I have number 1 for me is George Kittle with 49ers, Hockenson with the Lions, Pitts with the Falcons, Thomas with the football team, and then Robert Tonyan with Green Bay.
Yep, so mine is the same, just a little bit different order. I had Kittle, Pitts, then Hockenson, and then I had Thomas and Tonyan.
Perfect. Okay. And then we'll move to our last one, which is our top 5 sleepers for this year in the NFC. We kind of already went over some of these sleepers, but I feel like this one might change a little bit because we're going 8th round or after.
So I think some of the tight ends that we went over could be in the sleepers, but
Like,
actually,
100%.
I left them out just because we've already.
That's
been
what
over.
Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan are easily after round 8 guys that you can get, or the other guys can though. Like Kyle Pitts is going 4th, 5th. Kittle's going 2, 3, and then you got Kyle Pitt or Hopkinson, who, like I said, can go anywhere. I think anywhere from like 5 to 7. So.
So I'll go first. I think the number 1 sleeper this year, he's going about the late 8th, mid 8th. Just depends on if you're a redraft or keeper. I have Robbie Anderson,
and that's who I have
with the Panthers. I think showing what he did last year, being you could pick them up in your after the draft or got him the last round, and then being able to show what he did with Teddy Bridgewater and just got he took pretty much. DJ Moore's catches away. DJ Moore, I feel like, was supposed to be that number 1 by far. And kind of just
DJ Moore was still the one, but Robbie Anderson took
DJ
way
Moore
more
was still
volume
the
than
one,
you
but
expected.
I think it was supposed to be a bigger difference in one to Robbie Anderson. But Robbie Anderson was great with Teddy Bridgewater. Panthers signed him, and I really think that you're just going to get a consistent player out of Anderson, almost like Robert Woods, but someone that maybe will have a little bit less targets, but that you're also getting in the later rounds as well.
And he's reconnecting with Sam Darnold too.
Yep.
So yeah, I have Robbie Anderson, and I also threw in Terrence Mitchell with there as well. Just kind of a combo with the Carolina Panthers. Both those guys, I think, are going to get a lot of target share with DJ Moore. And you're easily getting those guys after the 8th. And Robbie Anderson, like you said, put up high number 1, like high number 2, wide receiver 2 value last year, and he was drafted really late, and they just extended him. So I think he'll be up there as well, with a solid year. My number 2 sleeper is Darnell Mooney for the Bears.
Okay,
and that's
really
because
like that pick.
They don't have anybody else outside of Robinson, and Montgomery there is going to help carry the ball. The only thing that worries me a lot with Darnell Mooney right now is who their quarterback's going to be, which is Andy Dalton, and their head coach, Matt Nagy. But I just feel like Mooney, we saw glimpses of it last year. He's explosive as all can be. He runs down the field. He gets deep ball threat as well as those quick out games. So I like him there, especially late in the 11th, 12th round. You can get him.
Yeah, that's definitely a steal. I think with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, Allen Robinson will be Allen Robinson. I don't see him being anything better, anything worse.
No.
And so you need that number 2 to come out, and I think Mooney's that guy. He showed flashes of it last year of being able to have great games. And I think he just takes that next step this year.
Anthony Miller's gone, so I just feel like it's a big year for him.
He like with the sleepers, there's so many of them that sometimes you forget about some. So Mooney didn't make my list, but 100% could be a top 5 for sure. So with number 2, actually, I went with a little bit of a strategy here. I went with Michael Thomas. So he's going in the mid-10th. You're going to be missing him to till mid-October, I think. But that's someone you're getting a number 1 wide receiver. When he comes back, he's the number 1 on that Saints team, especially Jameis Winston. I'm not saying Michael Thomas he can't be someone you're putting your flex or you're starting. Like, you need to make sure you have guys there. But if you're looking at the 10th round, you're not seeing someone that you like, and Michael Thomas is still available, grabbing him, putting him on your IR, saving him, and then when you get closer, about midway through the season, you're needing that little bit of a kind of a get up in your team. Putting in number 1 wide receiver that, if he's healthy, makes that number 1 the top 5 wide receiver list. It'd be a great find to have.
Yeah. And like you said, if you have that IR spot, it's a huge grab to take, especially late. You just insert him there, and then you can go pick somebody else off waivers who didn't go drafted and everything. I do like Michael Thomas there late, especially knowing he's going to come back. And I mean, worst case, he gets traded.
Yep.
And then you'll still have him wherever he goes next.
Still,
Yeah. So, who do you have at number 3 then?
So this one, These aren't really like super in order, but I'm gonna go with Tyler Higby. He didn't make my tight ends list, but where he's actually getting drafted and then being on a good offensive team, being the number one tight end on that team, he's going in the mid 13th round, and I think that's a great sleeper pick. Maybe you forgot that you're supposed to draft a tight end, or you're looking at that Travis Kelce, Kittle, Waller, you're going to put them in your flex and then try and need another tight end. I think Tyler Higby in that late round is a great pick.
And that's what, Tyler Higby there, we've already talked about Matt Stafford and Sean McVay. And no Gerald Everett, too, which is big for him. I think you'll only see him continue to go up. And this will be a big year kind of to see if he can establish himself as a tight end or they might move on from him. But I like Tyler Higby there, especially late round tight ends. I mean, once you get past the first 5, it's kind of hit or miss on the rest of them. So I like him a lot right there. The next guy I have here, and these, like you said, they're really not in any particular order. I just kind of wrote them down, is Laviska Shenault.
That's a good one.
That's solely because Marvin Jones, he's already kind of tweaked up again. I don't know if you saw that. So that's going to put him, who knows, he'll come back eventually, but he can't stay healthy either. And Laviska Shenault showed last year that he can be a scary player for them. And DJ Chark's good, but I just don't think DJ Chark's going to be a number one guy. I think it's going to be spread out a lot, and I think Laviska will get more share of the targets than anybody else on the team, and so that's why I put him there. And you're dating him 10th, 11th, 12th round. Really, it depends on where people are. But I like Laviska Shenault there because of the fact that Marvin Jones is there, but he's hurt all the time, and then DJ Chark you can't really rely too much on him being the number one guy.
Yeah, I think with Trevor Lawrence, he's going to need to find that guy that he can go to and trust, and I think it's really Shenault could be that guy. And I love that pick late round. I've been trying to find him in mock drafts and everything, and I just completely agree with whatever you said.
Yeah, that's what. So I like him there. Who do you have there next?
So next I have. Depends on our mock drafts in our main league. We've been kind of getting him in the 7th, but in ESPN and redrafts, he's kind of going in the 9th, 10th round. Actually, I took Devonte Smith.
Okay.
So he might not have made the list for some people if you're trying to do 8th because you might be seeing him in the 6th, 7th round. But in the ESPN, he's going actually in the early 10th.
Yeah.
So I went with him. You're picking the number one wide receiver on the Eagles. Eagles aren't. I don't want to say they're not going to be good because I said they're not the Lions or the Falcons, but I think the Eagles are going to struggle this year, especially with Jalen Hurts. A lot, yeah. But I think Devonte Smith and Jalen Hurts are just going to have that connection. You've been seeing it a little bit in the preseason games when Devonte Smith can just getting him the ball, not the deep routes, just put it in his hands, let him play.
Yep.
And you're getting a guy that could be a great wide receiver, number one on the team late in the draft.
Yeah, and that's what I really like. I really like him late in the draft because of his target share is going to be so high with Jalen Hurts. And we saw that in the first preseason game that he was in. He had 6 targets, I believe. So they're going to try to get him the ball. They're going to be their best playmaker. They don't really have anybody else. And Miles Sanders is whatever. But I think, like you said, the connection between Hurts and Devontae will be better than anything. And he'll be a solid late round pick, especially if he's going in the 10th or so. And as a rookie, he's great upside. The next guy for me is actually the quarterback we just mentioned, Jalen Hurts. He's going sometimes undrafted, but depending on what kind of quarterback league you're in, I think this guy will put up. They'll have to throw the ball a lot, in my opinion. Their team's not great. And then he's also a really good runner that I think a lot of people forget about. And I think once you have a dual threat quarterback as a fantasy guy, it's great value because you get the 6 points with the rushing touchdown, the 4, and you can't really pass up a rushing touchdown out of a quarterback. And he's going to get you some, and I think he's consistent enough as a thrower. And then if you have a guy like Devontae on your team, putting them together is just a double combo. But yeah, I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I think he's going to only improve on what he did last year.
Yeah, I know Meany talked about even trying to find that Hurts-Smith combo late in your draft could be have Smith in your first or second flex spot, and then I definitely like the Smith or not the Smith, but having the quarterback wide receiver combo on your team is something I definitely try to look for. You can't always do it. Try to do it in best ball, or sometimes even you're doing your stacks in your daily fantasy. But that Jalen Hurts-Smith combo you could see upside this year, especially where they're getting drafted at.
Yeah, and that's what I like them a lot. So I have Jalen Hurts. Who's your next guy?
So the last guy, I don't know in our draft, he was getting picked in the 8th, but actually later on he's in the ESPN, he's mid-10th, is Raheem Mostert. Mm-hmm. Big on him. The 49ers are going to run the ball. They'll have Trey Lance still throw a little bit more. He'll be a little flashy. But in the past, the 49ers are run first. Mm-hmm. I know he has Trey Sermon back there. It's going to be, you can even put Trey Sermon on this list. It just really depends on who you like there. But having Raheem Mostert, guy that you know who's been there, know who you've seen flashes of him just dominating games from the running back position, I think that's a great pick that you could get in the 10th round or so.
Yeah, and that's why I like Raheem Mostert a lot. I also like Trey Sermon. I think they're gonna do a split backfield situation where it'll be like you get a drive, or you get so many plays, he'll get so many plays, and they just continue to rotate him in. So I think either one of those two options are great to have there. I like both of them, and I think you can't go wrong with either one of them, especially late. And Mostert's always good for at least one 80-yard touchdown run. So. I like them both, and like I said, they both easily make this list as guys to watch for. With that being said, my last guy is kind of a surprise there. I was going to pick him up in our league, but somebody beat me to it because I didn't even realize he was still available, was Sterling Shepard with the Giants. And that's because they don't have anybody to throw the football to either. And he's going to get a ton of target share. And
Galladay is going to be hurt.
He's already hurt.
He's already hurt. I just think he's going to keep being hurt.
And that's what... So I think until Barkley gets back, Sterling Shepard's going to be that main guy. And he's going to continue... He's someone that you can pick up really late and kind of sit and hold on to for a while. And I like Sterling Shepard a lot to get that... I mean, the last preseason game he had 8 targets, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. And so he's kind of hurt last year a lot. And Daniel Jones, I think this is an important year for him to throw in the football. Mm-hmm. So I like Sterling Shepard late, and that's kind of like a guy you can almost pick up who will probably be available in most waivers. Mm-hmm. So looking at a guy like him or waiting.
If you have the multiple flex, the multiple wide receivers, here's someone in the deep leagues like the 12-man, even further on, someone that you might be starting week 1 because he's the number 1 wide receiver and the only wide receiver on that team.
So with our sleepers, I had Robbie Anderson and Terrence Mitchell from the Panthers, Darnell Mooney with the Bears, Laviska Shenault with the Jaguars, Hurts with Philadelphia, and then Sterling Shepard with the Giants.
Yep. And I had Robbie Anderson, like you, and then I had Michael Thomas with the Saints, Tyler Higby with the Rams, Devonte Smith, the Eagles, and Raheem Mostert with the 49ers.
Good. Okay. So that is going to wrap up our top 5 rankings for this AFC PPR rankings that we did. And we are going to move on to the gambling segment of our episode, which... Right now, with no NFL or no preseason going on, there's really no point to start getting into NFL gambling right now. We'll wait a little bit until the games start next week, and we'll come out with our picks for that Thursday night game with the Dallas Cowboys and Tampa Bay. And then we'll try to do like a Saturday episode where we give you a breakdown of the Sunday games, who we should start, who we shouldn't, and then we'll always try to give you our picks for that day as well. We'll give you like 3 picks, a lock and everything, and who we think there. And so we'll keep track of that on our Twitter so you guys can follow it as well. We'll just tweet out our picks and you can see and see how we're doing. But for gambling today, with that being said, baseball I don't really like.
Don't bet baseball.
Not gonna bet on baseball. We'll wait till like the World Series playoffs come around for that. We're going to go to the first week of college football. And I'm going to start it off. I'll start it off with a pick that I know can go either way with the two teams that are playing, and it's Iowa versus Indiana. I have Iowa at -3.5 solely because they're at home. If Indiana was at home, I'd probably take Indiana to win this football game. But I think going into Iowa, playing them at their home stadium is going to be tough. And I like Iowa winning that game by more than 3.5 points. They're older than Indiana, and Indiana's new to the spotlight of being a solid team, and they're supposed to be pretty good. But I like Iowa at -3.5 at -106 this weekend.
I like that a lot. Big Ten football, 3.5. If you're out there and you can buy points,
that's what, if I could get 2.5, that's or
2.5 or 3. That's something I'll go for.
Yeah,
but I can see Iowa winning that game pretty.
That's
easily.
what
big on Iowa this year.
Yeah. And then another game that I have this weekend is Clemson versus Georgia. It's a
huge game.
Yeah.
I think DraftKings even running a special that they're doing the thing where so many people bet on the over and then it lowers it.
Oh,
so
like
it's something
like
it's like $25.
A guaranteed victory
thing,
thing,
yeah.
like with the playoffs last year.
This is definitely, I'm going to be watching this game. It's a coin toss. Sometimes I don't like taking these kind of games just because Vegas set their lines and then there's so many people have been betting on it that it's almost, it's going to be at that true. But
yeah. That's what with DJ. I don't even know how to say this last time. I'm going to attempt. Getting reps last year when Lawrence was kind of out, I think he'll be able to step in and be really solid in this year too at Clemson. And I just think Georgia, they're good, but I just don't think they're as good as Clemson this year. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing that worries me. I think Clemson will be able to offensively take over the game. Defensively, they're so good on defense, and I think they'll be able to get some stops. And I think they win this game by 10 points. And I'm going to have Clemson at -3.5, which was -113. And I just think they're much better than Georgia, and I think they'll end up pulling the game away and win by at least 10.
Mm-hmm. Where's the game at?
It's at a neutral location. I looked it up today, but I completely forgot. It's it's like the Chick-fil-A game.
Yeah, man. I just feel like Georgia just never wins those big games.
That's what. It's the first game of the year. Kirby Smart. It's just I don't know how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And like Georgia, yeah, it's just they're always just not that.
They're always 5 or 6 every time.
And
that's Georgia.
So I just like Clemson. I think DJ, whatever his last name is too good. Their defense is too good,
mm-hmm.
and I just think they'll continue to be a top 3 team.
Yep.
Throughout the whole year. And so -3.5 for Clemson that game. And then the last game that I looked at that I liked, and this one kind of, North Carolina versus Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina's quarterback is coming back. His name just drew a blank to me. But he is supposed to be one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. Their offense is going to be good. They did lose their 2 running backs, which is going to hurt. But they have some solid receivers. And Virginia Tech just isn't. I don't think they have as much to compete with North Carolina. And North Carolina here is at -5.5. I think they can win by a touchdown, if not more.
That's good. That's good
so,
points.
I have North Carolina at -5.5, and I got them at -112. So those are the 3 games that I'm taking this weekend. There's a bunch of others, like Ohio State was -15.5 against Minnesota.
Really? Actually, so before we go any further, I actually found them on FanDuel at -13.5.
Okay.
And I took under the 14. I know they're at Minnesota, but just Ohio State always just seems ready. Beginning of the year, they don't miss a step, and I think that's where.
Let's be like in the fourth quarter. Would you want to be the guy who has Minnesota plus 13.5 with Ohio State driving up 10? Like no, I wouldn't. No. I would hate to be in that situation because they're probably going to score. Best case scenario is for you to get a field goal, but yeah, like I said, I think Ohio State's just too good, and Minnesota with PJ Fleck, yes, it's a big hype train there, but I just feel like Ohio State's too good, and they're going to be they'll win that game by more than 13.5. Mm-hmm. Who else? Do you have any other ones?
The last one I have Texas -8 against Louisiana Lafayette because Texas is back. And that's it.
Okay. If you think so, yeah. But yeah, okay. So, it's Texas against Louisiana Lafayette. You think they'd be able to score?
The Louisiana Lafayette's ranked.
Yeah, but it's also Texas.
It's at Texas too. I would think they'd be able to score 8. I'm very
New head
with college
coach.
football. When you have these points, that's very tough. So 8 is something that worries me a little bit. But I think it could be a close game. But I think Texas does pull away in that fourth quarter.
That's what I would hope
because
they
I
do.
think if Texas doesn't win this year, it's going to be I can't think of their coach's name right now.
Well, Tom Herman's gone. They have a new guy.
I just think if they with the new guy, you just want to make a statement right away.
Oh yeah,
And I can't think of his name to say. I knew his name, I just can't think of it. But you don't want to start on the wrong foot. Texas needs to turn around. I think the first year he definitely comes out, and I think
they're joining the SEC in 2 years. So
winning a statement game like this, if you can't beat a good Louisiana Lafayette, they're good, but if you can't beat them, then
it's Louisiana Lafayette again.
Yeah,
it's not like it's okay. Like I don't know, it's Louisiana Lafayette. They should not be in any competition with that team from the Big 12 like Texas. But Texas also has done anything in the last couple of years. But so that's going to wrap up our show. This is episode 3 or 4 actually.
4, yeah,
Man,
4.
yeah, these are flying by. We're going to try to get one out sometime this week again. Just be on the lookout for it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And then we're going to try to do, I don't know what's in store for the next episode yet, but we're going to figure it out, maybe break down first games or something, half the games, and give some starts. I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
could even talk a little bit more about Thursday games too, kind of get a...
We could break that down a little more and look into it more and everything. So I'm sure there'll be more news with these roster cuts, people adding and stuff. And but we appreciate everybody listening, and thank you guys for all the support. If you liked it, go check out the YouTube, subscribe, and hit the like button. Thanks, guys.
See ya.